Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for taking the time today to join another Generation Citizen Global Network webinar. We are excited to be focusing on civics education programming. Just a quick reminder that this webinar is being recorded. So for those of you who couldn't make it today, we will be uploading it to the Generation Citizen YouTube page, and we'll be linking the webinar to our global network website. So you can be sure to follow up then. So today, I am joined by Bonnie Mills, who is Generation Citizen's National Manager for Program Development, and she will be speaking about our in-school programming model. And we also have joining us Mr. Pride Makono, who is the Program Officer for R2's, which stands for Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe. And lastly, we will be joined by Musa Jabate, who is the coordinator and head of programs for the Initiative for the Promotion of Democracy and Good Governance, also known as IPDG. And he will be talking about getting programming off the ground. So, as you can see, we have a full agenda today. So let's get started. Civics education programming. So as I mentioned, that was a quick intro. Bonnie will begin with in-school programming. We'll then have a brief Q&A session, about 3 or so minutes for people to ask questions. Then we will have R2s presenting on after-school programming. And lastly, after an additional Q&A, we will have IPDG discussing the early stages of developing programming and time for questions and answers after that as well. So hopefully you are all excited to learn a bit more about civics education programming. And Bonnie, I will turn it over to you. Let's see. All right, I'm going to quickly shift screens now, so bear with me. All right, Bonnie, you ready to take it away?
Yes, thank you, Sydney. Sydney, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for the affirmation. So excited to be with all of you guys again this morning. Well, it's morning here, but I recognize that I think it's morning nowhere else but here right now. So a lot of you already know about Generation Citizen from our previous webinar calls. So some of this might be a repeat for you, but for the rest of you, it should be new. So that's great. So in case you didn't already know, Generation Citizen is a national nonprofit based in the United States. Our headquarters are actually in New York City, but we have sites or offices all throughout the US, and we're continuing to expand. As an organization, our goal is to ensure that every student in the United States receives an effective action civics education, which provides them with the knowledge and skills necessary to participate in our democracy as active citizens. Really, the main way that we work towards achieving this goal is by partnering with schools and teachers and providing them with our Action Civics curriculum and training, both of which we have created over time. The term Action Civics is new to some people, so in case you're not aware, it's a little different than traditional civics classes where students learn about how their government works. Action Civics really challenges them to go beyond just learning the facts and to actually put their knowledge into action, trying to solve an issue in their community. So we say that Action Civics achieves civic knowledge, civic skills, and we call it dispositions or motivations. So as far as kind of what are the ins and outs, what does our program look like? As Sydney mentioned, our program takes place during the school day. We have been approached before about after-school programming, but both because there's already so many great organizations doing after-school programming for students, and the fact that after-school programming can only get to some of the students and not all of the students, We just really believe that in-school programming provides us with the opportunity to engage all students in action civics, and not just the ones who maybe are able to participate in extracurriculars. We work in middle and high schools in the United States, which in the US, that means that we're working with approximately 11 to 18-year-old students. We do make some adjustments because obviously that's a pretty wide range of ages. So we do make some adjustments in our lessons and activities depending on age and grade level, and we're continuing to expand on that. The program runs on a semester basis. In the US, there's 2 semesters per school year, and each is about 4 months long. And so we run our program each semester, which means twice a year. The actual program takes place in a classroom setting with a teacher leading it, and a lesson is structured to take the entire class period. On the whole, most US schools have about 45 to 50-minute class periods, so our lessons are structured to take that long. If a teacher has like a 90-minute class period instead, we can work with them to, just do part of the lesson or whatnot. We can adjust it. Most teachers end up doing a Generation Citizen lesson twice a week for about 10 weeks within the semester to complete all 20 lessons within the curriculum. Some teachers might give their students extra days in addition if they're able to find more time in their teaching schedule, especially when they get to the action phase, because sometimes students, are really amped and excited and want extra time to work on it, which is exciting. The curriculum is implemented by either a trained volunteer, which are typically college students that we've recruited and trained, and we call them democracy coaches. I've spoken about them on a previous webinar, I believe, or a trained teacher. The vast majority of the curriculum is student-led, meaning that the students lead the research phase of the project, and then they also lead the action phase. So teachers are really just facilitators and supporters of this process rather than leaders. I'd like to talk for just a minute about some successes and challenges that we've had within Generation Citizen. So, Sydney, can you go to my next slide? Great. Thank you so much. So, Generation Citizen really got its start in 2008, 2009. And we've been really fortunate to have just a lot of exciting successes since then. Really, I kind of summed up all of the successes in that we've been able to expand our programming from just 1 site to 6 sites throughout the United States, and we've worked with over 30,000 students. How have we done that? Really, we've been really intentional about building relationships and networking so that we can create demand for our programming in new locations. When we look at a new location, we like it when there's people there who know about us and want us to come. We've also researched areas that have supportive legislation and or interested school districts. So some states in the United States have started passing laws to actually ensure that students will get an action civics education. And so we're particularly interested in those states. And so we like to go to those states. In addition, part of our work in building demand, creating that demand, is actually helping states pass that type of legislation. So it's sort of cyclical in that sense. But we've definitely had a lot of challenges. And one of the challenges I wanted to address in here with you guys today was it's been challenging expanding to new areas with our college volunteer model. So that's really how we started, was with our democracy coaches. And that's still the primary programming that we provide. There are plenty of locations we'd like to go to and do programming, but there just aren't enough college students there to support our classrooms. So right now, for example, we have programming in New York City. Well, there are dozens and dozens of colleges there. So there's plenty of college students to choose from, right? There's millions of people in New York City. So there's lots of volunteers. But in other cities, there might not be any colleges, or there might only be 1 or 2. And so it's harder to sustain a program there when there's not as many volunteers. So we've been working on solutions for some time. The most obvious solution for us was, let's train teachers to be facilitators, right? They're already licensed professionals. And so that's been kind of the primary way we've tackled the problem. We call that our teacher-led programming. And we're using that model to expand to more areas, especially to rural areas that are away from cities and have really no access to college students of any kind. So that's been helpful for that. But we're also considering the prospect of continuing to invite volunteers into the classroom that we could train and call democracy coaches. But instead of being college students, they might just be members in the community who are interested in contributing and giving back to their schools and to their students. So that's something that we're sort of excited about. We're going to pilot that out and try it. But would love to hear from you guys about any ideas you have for that challenge, or any questions that you have about our programming.
Awesome. Thank you, Bonnie. So now we'll open the floor for questions. If anyone has anything they want to follow up about regarding GC's programming model.
And of course, if there's no questions now, you can always send us an email, or Sydney's going to talk in a little bit about a new way that we're going to try and communicate with each other, so you can do that as well. But I'm open to any questions or comments or suggestions.
Okay, this is Pride. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, thanks. This is Pride from ARTUZ. I want to find out what has been your experience in working in low-income communities, in respect of your volunteers and also in terms of expansion, because I simply had thinking about the numbers of the classes, but I want to understand how your working in a low-income communities has been like.
That's a great question. Thanks, Pride. So a couple of different answers for that. The first one is we do have a fee-for-service model, meaning that schools do pay us for our services. However, we have a sliding scale. So schools that have less ability to pay for programming can receive discounts, pretty substantial discounts on programming. We've even been known to, bring our programming to a school for free if they really just can't afford it. So that's one answer to your question. Another sort of challenge in low-income areas is that the college volunteers, while they'd like to volunteer and contribute to the program, in their free time when they're not taking classes, they have to work, right, to provide for their families. So one of the things that we've done, we've tried out in New York City this past year, is actually providing scholarships to democracy coaches, to the college volunteers, which has helped some of those students who otherwise wouldn't be able to participate because they're working. They, getting paid to do it has helped them to be able to do that. So we're excited about how that might open doors. It does require us to seek out more funding because as an organization, because we're a nonprofit, we don't really have the money to do that. So we were fortunate in New York City to receive funding from the city council because they recognized the value in a college student getting to be a democracy coach. So that's one of the ways that we've worked on tackling that as well. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it pretty much does.
Great, awesome. But we're, like I said before, open to other people's ideas or ways that you guys have tackled that in your own communities, and certainly open to continuing to brainstorm with you all and anyone else, because you're right, it's an important consideration to keep in mind. Any other questions? Okay, sounds good. Well, like I said, Sydney's going to mention here in just a little while another way that we can hopefully keep in touch with each other and do some idea sharing, but I'll turn it back over to her.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Bonnie, and great question, Pride. And on that note, Pride, I guess I will actually hand over the floor to you. Let me just get your slides up really quick. If you want to take this time to quickly, reintroduce yourself for the group.
Okay, my name is Pride Kono. I'm working with an organization called Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, or ARTUZ, which is based in Zimbabwe, as you can hear. I am the programs officer there. Yeah, now that my slides are up, let me just quickly go on to it. Just a brief of our organization as I try to get through the slides. ARTUZ was formed in was officially registered in 2018. And so we've been working with rural teachers. Currently, our membership is standing at 35,000. Though most of them are not contributing membership fees because of the economic conditions here. Most of them really earn below the poverty line, so they can't contribute much. So my presentation is going to look at, we can move to the next slide, please. Sydney,
Uh-oh. Oh, Pride,
yeah, I
sorry,
can
we
move.
lost you for a minute.
If we can go to the next slide, please.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay. So the title of our project that we're doing is called the Toda Kukura Campaign, Allow Us to Grow campaign. Toda Kukura is simply a Shona word, hashtag Toda Kukura, which simply means hashtag allow us to grow. So the project, or the goal of this project, is to raise awareness among our school children on child marriages and amplify their voices against child marriages and sexual abuse. This in respect that if you look at Zimbabwe, one of the most what keeps a number of young girls and from school has been the issue of they are married off early, some of them as young as 18 years, some of them as young as 12, 14, 15. So as a union which works in rural areas where these things are rampant, we realized that there was a need for us to have a specific campaign to keep, for the teachers to keep people that are teaching in class so that they don't end up getting married off. So this is just basically an awareness campaign. And currently we're running the project in Wedza district, which is some 20 kilometers from the capital city, Harare. It's a very raw area there. So this is basically the project. You can move to the next slide. Hello, thank you. So in terms of our programming, because of the intensive learning time, we normally do our activities after school. So that is basically around after this side is 1,500 hours. That's why most of the classes would have ended. And our campaign targets 18 to 18-year-old children who are still students and are still attending school. These are the ones that are usually at the risk at that age of being married off early. Recently, our Constitutional Court gave a ruling last year that prohibited, that actually outlawed child marriages, to say that anyone who marries a child below the age of 18 should be arrested for a criminal offense. So this is then that we thought we could have this program to enhance that kind of ruling. It's running continuously for 12 months, and I think we're now almost halfway into the campaign, and we hope to be concluding it sometime next year in February, and then looking ways how we can pick up the issues going forward. You can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this basically describes our typical project day. So what normally our students do is that they elect committees. So the group of students participating, if the teacher is the head, and then they elect each other into the committees. And these committees, so they normally put out notices on the class notice boards on schools on the participating schools. So they have our notice boards filled up with these notices of an activity that's coming up. And after school, then students can gather wherever they for the day. Basically, the design of the activity for the day is done by the leading teacher and the committee elected by the students to head the club. And as you can see there, most of the activities are generally debates around the policies, around the Supreme Court ruling. So when the Constitutional Court was sitting to deliberate, to hear arguments for and against the issue of child marriages from the government attorneys and the human rights lawyer had filed that case, we also had mock debates in school. So after that ruling, we then had children do these mock debates, trying to regurgitate the arguments so that they are more informed on that issue. Also, sometimes have seminars where we can have a presenter coming in from outside and then presenting to children on on any issue around child marriages. For example, what does the UN declaration say? What does the SADC protocols on children say? I mean, the regional protocols say, and what does the national constitution say? Then sometimes children themselves can compose dramas, dance, music, and poetry. And sometimes they just get together and do sport as a way of showcasing their need to continue to be in school. You can go to my next slide. I think we'll be going to the challenges. Well, you did pass some of the slides on challenges, but I'll just highlight a few of them. I think our major challenge has been that we want to expand again. It's around expansion to other districts where some of these things are happening. But we're having a challenge, obviously, here with resources to be able to get there, because we're also a non-profit. So most of these resources are actually contributions from our members, and sometimes we do get good from corporates who assist us along the way. But we really want to expand this so that we have more districts being involved, because we're currently operating in all the 8 rural provinces of the country. So we have that issue. But in terms of opportunities there, we're looking forward to collaborations with an organization that is willing. We're also going to be doing documentaries that will be uploading on YouTube around the impact of the project. We'll be publishing booklets of poetry by students. We also look forward to be recording and producing drama series, the local channels, hopefully for our airwaves here are freed, so that probably students, the information gets out there. And obviously, we're now trying to have more use of social media, because mobile penetration, internet is now getting readily accessible, which will make it easier for people to use social media platforms to communicate some of these issues. So those are some of the issues that we are looking at. I think on that note, I should thank you. And if there are any questions, please come on board. Hello, Sydney.
Well, yep. Is this the right slide, or you want the next one?
No, you can go to the next one.
Okay. Here we go. Successes.
Yeah, so these are successes that we've done. We've reached out to about 5,000 students in the 12 participating schools in terms of reaching them out to the activities. And then we have 20 students that have presented a number of performances at schools, and then we've had a rise in terms of sexual cases by victims of Yellow. Yeah, those are some of the challenges that I earlier on highlighted. I think that basically much of it is basically just to say you also have religious resistance, which I think is of note. Or some of the beliefs in some of the religious areas is that children can actually be married off early. So that's one of the things that we've had. Yeah. Yeah, so thank you. That's just basically thank you in terms of our vernacular language this side. So we can give us any suggestions that you have, and any input or anything that I can answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Fred. Really appreciate your presentation. So once again, we'll open it up for some questions. And again, if you want to save them for later on, there will be an opportunity for that too. But right now you have Pride's ear, so.
Well, Pride, thank you for sharing. This is really an exciting, important work that you're doing. I'm really interested, you mentioned at the end that you're going to host some televised debates. How are you doing that? Do you have a relationship with somebody with the network, or how are you getting the opportunity to get your students' debates on television?
It's actually an opportunity that we're going to be using, but we'll be using social media. So we can actually live stream it on Facebook. That's what I'm looking at it, or so that people can then engage in comments and ask questions and get it at that. Because currently but also because the issue is not really politically sensitive, I think it's something that can also be appreciated. But we're trying to stakeholders in the media find out who will be willing to take it up. But firstly, we can even use social media, because now it's now more areas than it was before. When yeah.
Have you guys ever used, so when you post videos online, have you ever done like Facebook Live where you post them while it's happening? That's
what we want to explore with. Most of the times we're just posting summaries of what would have happened. We would now want to use Facebook platforms like Facebook Live so that everyone is aware of what will be happening.
Yeah, definitely. That would be really neat to do the live video streams of your students. That could be really exciting.
Yeah, that's actually a very brilliant idea. I think it's something that we need to do more. But the only other challenge is that some of the school teachers do not really understand how to use such platforms. So we also need to train them first so that they're able to appreciate that.
That totally makes sense. The students always know about social media and technology before the teachers ever do.
Yeah, that's right.
And Pride, also to our point about Facebook before, you know, when your program is having these Facebook Live moments, definitely let the network know so that we can all tune in and highlight the work that you're doing on the different social media channels as well.
Yeah, it's also critical because I think there are other social media pages, YouTube and Twitter. I think it's something make use of them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again, Pride. If we don't have any other questions at this time, we will move on to our next presentation. Unfortunately, Moose is having some difficulty joining the call. So I will just quickly run through the slides on his behalf and give a very, very general summary of what he's trying to cover. So let me once again switch gears here. Please bear with me. Okay, so here we have IPDG's presentation on programming. Here's a quick outline of the discussion, just to share. So unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with Moose's organization, the work that they do, so I can't provide too much detail more than what he has already provided for us here. But ultimately, it appears that the work that organization does, similar to Pride, what you were speaking about, is happening in more rural communities outside of major urban areas, and which ultimately is a cause for limited access to information. And as you can see in this second point, it appears that there are certain challenges to starting programming, to starting advocacy movements that IPDG is facing. So they call their programming Working Together for Positive Change, Impacting from the Seedlings to the Fruits campaign. Ultimately, aiming to produce an informed and enlightened citizenry who will take an active part in nation building and other important work. Additionally, some primary goals of this organization is to really connect with the communities that they're serving, to spread this awareness and to advocate on behalf of the change that they are seeking. Let's see. So it appears that they're focusing on older youth, again, out of school as they are able. Wow, and it's interesting. It lasts for several years. So they're trying to really take on different strategies for seeing what works best for spreading their message and connecting with their communities. So here we have a bit about their activities, setting up human rights clubs, ultimately getting young people involved in advocating for human rights and understanding what that means and how to spread their message. Here are some anticipated outcomes. ultimately strengthening the community by sharing this important information. And here are some challenges that make this programming difficult to get off the ground in the early stages. So I know we've all talked about, accessing schools, accessing resources to connect with people, on a large scale. So it's definitely a challenge that IPDG is also facing. So there we have it. Unfortunately, I don't know too much background to answer any questions, but if you're interested in getting in touch with Musa, we'll have our Facebook page that I'll talk about really soon. So, we can share information there, and that's another great outlet to connect and brainstorm about our challenges and, tips for success. So
Sydney, can you also just scroll up a little bit so we can see his email a little bit better?
Oh, sure. Let's see. I can read it out loud because I think the page is cut, but it is mjobeh.ipdg@gmail.com.
Okay, great. And then maybe we can send out, his email and his slides again in an email or something so that we can reach out to him.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That sounds
Sure.
great. Yeah, because it
And-
seems like
and Sydney-
he's very open to feedback.
And Sydney,
Yeah,
can you be able to also send all these presentations on email
absolutely.
so
That's
that
a great
we can go through them, and if something comes up, we can always talk to this guy.
Yeah,
Sure.
sounds perfect. So I'll send the PowerPoints along with the webinar so you can listen to our commentary along with the slides, and everything will be all together.
Super.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Any final comments about this? Or we'll keep moving along. Okay. Again, switching gears. Okay, so as Bonnie and I have hinted several times throughout this webinar, we have recently launched the Generation Citizen Global Network Facebook page as a way to bring all of our wonderful partners together to discuss work that their organization is doing, certain challenges that they're facing, tips for success that they've come across that they want to share with their peers, and ultimately make this a platform for people to brainstorm together and really to heighten the collaborative elements of this network. So you may be wondering how to be a part of this Facebook page, and what you can do is actually find the Generation Citizen Facebook page, and if you like it through your own personal Facebook account, then our team will make sure that we are able to add you to this page since we're admins or administrators, so we're able to do that. But so if you go again to the Generation Citizen Facebook page, then we will be able to connect you, and you'll be able to join this special group for the global network. And like we were saying, it's another chance to continue this conversation. We'd love for you to share ideas that that have been talked about in webinars, or different ideas that you think are important. Really just a place for you to express your thoughts and hear from others in a really positive, hopefully impactful way. Any questions about the Facebook page? Bonnie, did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think, we're just hoping that the Facebook, and it's a Facebook group, not a page. It's also a closed group. No, that's okay. I just was making sure people understood that it's a closed group, so you will have to be invited. Or you do have to request to be a member. You can't just search for the group part, but you'll search for Generation Citizen, like Sydney said, and then from there we can include you into it. And we'll provide more details via email from Sydney later today or tomorrow. But hopefully the Facebook page will be a space where we can ask questions, we can provide each other with advice. If one of us comes across a good grant opportunity, we can share it on here. Or we'd love it if, like Sydney was mentioning before, if your students are doing something exciting or they've done something exciting, share it on here. Give us a link so we can come watch or look at pictures after the fact. You can post pictures on here as well. So just a space for us to learn about what each other is doing and to give each other advice and suggestions on future endeavors.
That's great.
Awesome.
Yes.
Great. So we are excited to see all that you are willing to share with us here. Just some other sort of housekeeping notes. So definitely, again, like the Generation Citizen Facebook page so that we can add you to the Global Network group. And also, if you still have outstanding MOUs, please send those to me, Sydney Menzin. Again, the email is globalnetwork@generationcitizen.org. Feel free to reach out with any questions, and we look forward to getting more of those back from you all. And additionally, our next webinar, which will be happening in October, can't believe it's already September, but here we are, which will be focusing on monitoring and evaluating the impact of your organizations. So if that's of any interest to you and you want to get involved, please, again, get in touch, email me, but I'll be sending out more formal reminders about that in the coming weeks so that you can get involved for sure. And lastly, as I have this social media page up, just a quick reminder to check in with our website. We'll be posting the links to our webinars. We have some great blogs coming up in the pipeline that we'll be showing or posting on the website. And so yeah, just keep staying connected, keep staying involved, and as always, let us know what we can do to help you in the important work that you're all doing. Any final comments or questions?
I think it's a great program to be meeting and discussing like this. I think sharing ideas, it really be good. Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Pride, and thank you so much, Bonnie, to both of you, and to Musa, who put together his great presentation. And again, I'll send all of this information out later today or tomorrow, so you'll all have it. But it's really great when we have our partners stepping up as leaders and sharing the important work that they're doing. So thank you all so much. Keep in touch, and we will connect on Facebook and through our webinar next month.
Okay.
Awesome. Take care, everybody.